All right, this video is going to discuss dockets, what they are, and how to understand them. And then the next video will be how to locate them, and specifically using Bloomberg to find federal dockets. So what is a docket? It's a fairly common term, but in the law, like with many terms, we use it with a couple of specific meanings. Two major meanings we use are: one is it's a calendar or a list of cases before a court. So what's next on the docket? What's coming up next? Related to that is the calendar of events and documents filed in a case before the court. Sort of starts as a record of the events that occurred, and then on that record of events, you identify what documents are submitted. So as a written document, a docket is basically a list of dates and entries. And so this is an old school docket sheet where you see there are dates written in one column and then brief descriptions on each of the other columns. The docket sheet has the names of the parties in the upper left-hand corner. It'll identify the attorneys generally, the date that it was initiated, and then the major events. This docket sheet is from the 70s, and sometimes you'll find this style of docket sheet kept up through the early 90s. And so we're not too far removed from these sort of old-fashioned handwritten docket sheets. Starting with the late 80s and early 90s, you get these print docket sheets, which were typewritten, and they contained all of the same information. They just their appearances changed, but it's a little easier to read. And so you see the plaintiffs and defendants' names, you get the docket number, which is the unique identifier for the case, and then you see the major events: summons, motions, minutes, with brief descriptions associated with it. And then I want to point out that there's a number associated with it in the second column in between the date and the description. And that number is identifying the specific documents submitted to the court. And so if you were to ask for these documents in print, you would go to the clerk's office and be like, I want the document 14 from this case, and they would pull off that motion. Now, reading a docket, there's a few pieces of information you want to pay attention to. They're generally going to be across the board, the same across all jurisdictions. First is going to be the case or docket number, that sort of unique identifying piece of information. Then there will be the case name, of course. That'll identify who the parties are. You'll find the filing date whenever the first document was filed before that court. This is important because when cases become appealed, they will get both a new docket number and a new filing date at that level of the court. Then you have the individual event dates and a description of those events, and then the attorney information so that the parties can remain in contact. Now let's take a look at the actual caption to a case on a docket. So this is a screenshot from Pacer, the filing system and document system for the federal courts. And we see the case or docket number up there, the parties' names, and then the filing date up there. And then lower down, you see an event dates, and event descriptions. One thing I will flag is not every event will have an associated document. As I mentioned, some rulings are made from the bench, and so there may be an event associated with the ruling, but no document associated with it. And also things like scheduling conferences or time extensions will show up on the docket, but there is no associated document generally with those events. Let's take a look at reading a federal docket number. So there's a standardized docket number format for the federal courts. Each jurisdiction will have a standardized version of that. And what are the various parts? So to understand it, let's take a look. So first here, we have the filing location. That is not an essential piece of information, but if this is from the District of Oregon, and it's telling us that this case was filed in Portland. The other courthouses will have different associated codes for the filing location. And so that's just a thing to be aware of. That's what comes before the colon. Then you have the 2-digit number, which represents the year. So this was filed in 2013. And then you'll see the CV, that's a type of case. You'll see CV, CR, ER for the various types, bankruptcy, criminal, or civil case. And so CV is a civil case. And next we have the annual number. And so this is mostly what we're referring to when we refer to a docket number. And it's a lot like a public law number or all of the many things we've seen. The year number and the annual number are the two most important to identifying and locating a case. And so here we see, this is the 1,828th case filed in 2013. And that's the information we have here, and that's going to be the unique information associated with it. And then the last 3 letters you see, that's the judge's initials that the case has been assigned to. One caveat about using docket numbers is that they are used each in every jurisdiction. So this is 13 CV 01828 in the District of Oregon, but there will also be one in the District of Idaho, in the Eastern District of Washington. So we would need to specify our jurisdiction, or we're going to get roughly, I think about 85. I can't remember exactly the number of federal court district courts there are, but that number will be used across all of those jurisdictions. Now that you've got a solid understanding of what a docket is and how to read a docket number, our next video is going to take a look at how to locate dockets and what documents you find there.